You know, in the world of intelligence, some figures operate so deep in the shadows, they basically become ghosts. Today, we're hunting for one of those ghosts, the mastermind behind one of the deadliest terror attacks of the 21st century. And the name on the charge sheet? Major Iqbal. That quote, it really gets to the heart of it, doesn't it? This isn't the story of some common criminal. We're talking about a highly trained officer from Pakistan's intelligence agency, the ISI, who basically engineered a whole new kind of warfare. So the big question is, how did he pull it off? All right, to really get who this ghost is, we've got to rewind a bit. We have to go back to the event that created him, a moment that pushed two nuclear-armed rivals right to the brink and just completely changed the rules of their deadly game forever.
Okay, so let's talk about the 2001 attack on India's parliament. This was a huge deal. The terror groups had clear ties to Pakistan, and it brought India and Pakistan, two nuclear-armed nations, right to the edge of all-out war. For the ISI, this was a massive wake-up call. They figured out pretty quickly that going head-to-head with India was basically suicide. They needed a smarter way, a different way, to fight their proxy war.
And what they came up with was all built around this one incredibly powerful idea: plausible deniability. It's really the cornerstone of what we call asymmetric warfare. The whole idea is simple, really. You use terrorists as your pawns. If something goes wrong, if they get caught, the state just throws up its hands and says, nope, wasn't us. And the man they picked to perfect this ruthless new strategy, well, that was a brilliant and very shadowy officer, a man named Major Iqbal.
So Major Iqbal had his strategy, but he knew to pull this off, he couldn't just use any old spy. No, he needed something different. He needed the perfect weapon. Someone who could just blend in, operate right under everyone's noses without a single red flag. And believe me, he found that person in the most unlikely of places.
Meet Dawood Gilani. On the surface, he's a Pakistani American. Dig a little deeper, he's got a shady past. We're talking drug trafficking, even working as a DEA informant. The guy was smart, no doubt, but he was also deeply radicalized. Then, in 2006, he makes this incredibly calculated move. He legally changes his name to David Coleman Headley. And just like that, a potential red flag becomes a clean, friendly Western persona. He literally became an invisible man, and that was the key to Major Iqbal's whole plan.
And the way they brought him in, it was meticulous. So Headley gets noticed by this retired major, a guy they called Pasha. Pasha passes him up the chain, right to Iqbal. And Iqbal himself takes over, personally training him, molding him into a top-tier spy. But here's the really clever and scary part. Iqbal and the other handler from Lashkar-e-Taiba, Sajid Mir, they made sure they never met Headley together, always separately. It created a firewall, you see? That's plausible deniability in action. The idea was, if Headley ever got caught, they could just cut the cord, sever any direct link back to the ISI.
So to get the ball rolling, what does Major Iqbal do? He hands David Headley $25,000 US in cold, hard cash. And this wasn't just, a payment. It was seed money. The investment he needed to build a totally legitimate cover story. And what does Headley do with that cash? He opens up an immigration consulting office right in Mumbai. I mean, think about it. It was the perfect cover. It gave him a reason to be there, to travel, to network with people. He's joining fancy gyms, going to parties, rubbing shoulders with the city's elite, and the whole time, he's secretly drawing a map of death.
Okay, so the perfect asset is now in place. Now, Major Iqbal can get down to business. He starts to draw up the blueprint for an attack designed to bring a megacity of 20 million people to its absolute knees.
Over 5 different trips, Headley just melts into Mumbai. He becomes a ghost. And we're not talking about taking a few tourist photos here. Oh no. He was videotaping hotel lobbies, timing the patrols of security guards, mapping out every possible escape route. He even found the perfect hidden little spot on the coast for the attackers to land undetected. Every single one of those details was then flown back to Pakistan and put right into Major Iqbal's hands.
So this was the list, the actual target list, handpicked by Iqbal himself. You've got iconic hotels, a super busy train station, the usual soft targets. But then, court testimony later brought out this really chilling detail. Iqbal personally insisted they add Nariman House, which was a Jewish community center. Why? Because he was completely obsessed with this idea that it was some kind of front for Israeli intelligence. It just gives you this stark, horrifying window into the kind of paranoid, hateful ideology that was driving this whole thing.
The level of detail they went into, it's just mind-blowing.
They took Headley's intel and actually built a physical model of the Taj Mahal Palace Hotel, back in Pakistan. And Major Iqbal himself supervised the whole thing. The goal was to have those 10 terrorists memorize every single hallway, every staircase, before they ever even stepped foot in India. This wasn't just random terror. This was a military-grade operation, planned with military precision.
And then we get the smoking gun. While this horrifying 60-hour siege is happening, there's a control room back in Karachi directing the whole bloody affair. And we know this because a captured handler later testified that 2 ISI majors were physically in that room. Think about that. They were watching the attacks unfold on live TV and giving the terrorist instructions in real time. Right there, in that moment, that whole clever strategy of plausible deniability, it just completely fell apart.
From Iqbal's twisted perspective, the 26/11 attacks were a horrifying success. But you know what happens next. That success bred confidence, and that confidence turned into arrogance. And that arrogance led them to plan their next big attack. And this time, well, this time it would be their undoing.
Yeah, their next target wasn't in India, it was in Europe. The code name was, bizarrely, the Mickey Mouse Project. The plan? To hit the Danish newspaper that had published those controversial cartoons of the Prophet Muhammad. So Iqbal and Mir activated their star player Headley one more time. They sent him off to Copenhagen to scope out the target. But this time, his luck was about to run out.
Turns out Headley's personal life was a total disaster, and that's what brought him down. Get this, one of his wives had actually gone to the U.S. Embassy in Islamabad and warned them about his extremist activities, not once, but multiple times. Now, tragically, those warnings fell through the cracks, but U.S. and international intelligence were finally closing in. In October 2009, the FBI nabbed him at Chicago's O'Hare Airport, and faced with the death penalty, well, he sang like a canary. He spilled everything, exposing the entire conspiracy from top to bottom.
And Headley's confession, it led to this absolutely historic moment. For the first time in history, the U.S. government officially indicted a serving officer of Pakistan's ISI for terrorism. A federal arrest warrant was issued for Major Iqbal, the Ghost. Well, the Ghost finally had a name and a rap sheet.
But here's the thing. Iqbal himself, he's never been arrested. In fact, Pakistan flat out denies he even exists. But the terror infrastructure he perfected, that's still very much alive. It continues to evolve and threaten the entire region to this day.
You see, Major Iqbal's war wasn't just about bullets. It was fought on 2 fronts. The second one, money. He was running this massive operation to print incredibly high-quality fake Indian currency, and word is, it was being done in Pakistan's own state presses. This super fake cash was then smuggled into India, and it had a 2-part mission. First, to fund terror cells and buy weapons, and second, to try and destabilize the entire Indian economy from the inside out.
And that really brings us right up to today. Iqbal's playbook, his whole strategy, has evolved with technology. Back then, the terrorists came by boat. Today, the threat comes from the sky. Drones are flying over the border like it's nothing, and the network has gotten bigger, creating this really dangerous marriage between terror groups and powerful organized crime gangs.
I mean, right now, drones are dropping military-grade weapons and drugs into Indian territory. We're talking sophisticated stuff, like US-made rifles that were left behind in Afghanistan. And who are they arming? Local criminal gangs. This creates this incredibly deadly cocktail of narco-terrorism and gang warfare, all designed to shake the country to its core. This is the direct evolution of the very infrastructure Major Iqbal helped create.
Which leaves us with this one big lingering question. David Headley's behind bars, sure, but Major Iqbal? He was never caught. He's still out there, a ghost. And his story really forces us to ask a tough question. In a world of state-sponsored terror, in a world of plausible deniability, how do you even begin to fight, let alone win, a war against an enemy who can just disappear back into the shadows?